flag, you know, we call it the tricolor because it has three colors. You've seen the flag of the Republic of Ireland, right? Green, white, and orange. It was designed in 1848. We celebrated the anniversary of the flag being designed last year. Designed by a man called Thomas Francis Mayer, and he designed it south of here in Waterford City. And what it represents is that the two colors on either end, both the green and the orange, represent the two predominant cultures of this island, both Irish and British, both native and settler, both Catholic and Protestant, and the white in the middle represents the hopes of peace between those two. Now, Mr. Mayer designed that flag in 1848, and I love what it represents. But you see, in 1848, people were trying to survive here, literally. People were flooding into places like Dublin with green around their mouths because they had resorted to eating grass. And that's part of our history, the famine. But that the famine was allowed to happen. You know, I don't like the word famine because famine means lack of food. Ireland's never had a lack of food. We've always had crops, we've always had livestock. But in lieu of non-paid rent, a lot of livestock and crops were put onto ships and sent out to places like Bristol and Liverpool, and people here were perishing. So, of course, they were not ready to accept what that flag represents at that point. So here's where it gets interesting. Mr. Mayer, he says, okay, fair enough, and he leaves, he emigrates to America. And after being a journalist in New York City for a little while, Civil War breaks out. Mr. Mayer joins up with the Union Army. Eventually he becomes a Civil War hero, and you know, the first place in the world that what became the Irish flag was ever flown was on an American battlefield. It's interesting, isn't it? And that's what happened to Mr. Mayer. He went on to become the governor of Montana. And his story is not often told, and I think it needs to be told. That the man that gave us our flag became Montana's governor. And he died in the Mississippi River. He came off a riverboat. And no one knows, was he drunk, was he pushed, did he fall? We'll never know. But he certainly was a success story. He became an American success story, you see. 3 million people leave here in 10 years. It's extraordinary. They say by the year 1858, 1/4 of New York City's inhabitants were Irish born. I want you to try and imagine 25% of the greater New York area being able to say, I was born in Ireland. I mean, that's huge. The Irish also doubled a city in Canada's whose hockey team, they're going to win the Stanley Cup in the next 3 years, Toronto. They doubled Toronto, that's usually worth a laugh. You know? They doubled Toronto's population in 8 months in 1858. U2 have a song called The Hands That Built America. They're referring, of course, to the Irish. In fact, has anyone ever taken the Cliffs of Moher Galway tour with Wild Rover yet? Yes, yes, I did it yesterday. You know then that we make a little bathroom break out in County Offaly in a place called Moneygall. We make a bathroom stop at the Barack Obama Plaza. It's in Moneygall, County Offaly, because that was the ancestral home of Barack Obama's mother's great-great-grandfather. You know, there's a lot of American presidents have had strong connections in ancestry to come from Ireland. And by the way, I'm going to say it, just talking about the Barack Obama Plaza, yeah, I know that given the current president and the current political climate, that as a professional tour guide, I have a responsibility to keep things balanced. I'm sorry Donald Trump doesn't have any Irish connections that I know of. But he does own a golf course in County Clare. And he actually was in Ireland 2 weeks ago. but it wasn't a state visit or an official visit. He didn't, he flew by helicopter into his golf course, and he had a meeting with our Prime Minister, our Taoiseach, and by all accounts, he went to his golf course and had to check on his wall. He's fond of his walls. Well, wait, let me explain. He's building a retaining wall because the golf course is on the Atlantic Ocean. Like, it's right on the coast, so it's a retention wall to prevent the fairway from falling into the sea. So he's building a wall. I think the only problem is he totally misunderestimated the Mexican swimmers. Thank you. That was the first laugh I've got all day since we left Dublin this morning. My word, the lengths people have to go to, huh? Now, the majority of the strong connections from this island and America come from the north of Ireland in the province of Ulster. These are people who eventually became known as the Scots-Irish. These were Protestants, Presbyterians, who went to Ulster in the north of Ireland from Scotland. They're called the Ulster Scots. And you might be interested to know that 3 men who signed your Declaration of Independence were not even from America. They were from the northern province of Ulster here in Ireland. That presidents, not 2, 3, or 5, 11 American presidents have had their parents or grandparents from here. Jackson, Jefferson, Washington, that's just for starters, that's just to name a few. Pennsylvania was entirely Scots-Irish. They played a pivotal role in the American War of Independence. And the most important things to the Scots-Irish people are education, worship, and personal freedom, and being left alone. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Guess what? That is an Ulster Scots expression, saying. So when America gained their independence, they went to live in places like the Virginias and the Appalachians in Kentucky and Tennessee. They wanted to be left alone, worship, education. And the Americans there began to nickname them Billies because their most common name was William. They took their traditional music with them, and that became something called bluegrass. They gave the world gospel music as well. These are people that became known as hillbillies, but they came from here originally. And famous people of Scots-Irish ancestry would be the likes of that lovely lady, Dolly Parton, the late great Johnny Cash, Neil Armstrong, first human on the moon, and so many others. Author Steinbeck wrote The Grapes of Wrath, Mark Twain. I could go on and on and on. So anyway, I won't though. I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to play a song for my American guests specifically, just to sort of say, hey, happy 4th of July.